It really looks like it's going to be Justin Fields, QB1 for 2025. And can Jaxson Dart be his backup? Big Deke news. Let's start off with our obligatory updated Steelers quarterback report. And this one involves the head honcho of NFL reporting, Adam Schefter.
The other place to watch this week would be the Pittsburgh Steelers because they currently do not have a quarterback under contract. It's tough to go into free agency, to go add to your offense when you have no idea who's playing quarterback. And that's why I think they're going to spend this week working on getting a deal done with either Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. I would imagine Justin Fields is first up in the pecking order. We'll see if they can get something worked out there. If not, it's easy to pivot on to Russell Wilson, and we'll see how this works out. But I would think Pittsburgh is determined to try to get one of these quarterback deals done in the coming days so that it has some clarity going into free agency. And that doesn't mean they couldn't add another quarterback at some point in time. But I think the idea would be to provide some stability now so that at least they could go into free agency with a little bit more clarity than they currently have.
It's never been more Justin Fields is the guy than it is right now. This is something. It really is, because Adam Schefter hasn't said this before. He's always been Russell Wilson is going to be back. Russell Wilson is going to be QB1 for 2025. Now, he did say the choice was going to be between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Steelers would want to bring one of the in-house guys back, but he's always said for the last 3 weeks, the last month, that he thinks it's ultimately going to be Russell Wilson who is the starting quarterback for 2025. Now, he's saying Justin Fields is a priority. This is the first time he said that. That's why I'm saying, like, this is actually kind of big news here. We've had reports come out from other big-name people saying that it's going to be Justin Fields, that the Steelers don't want Russ back, like Diana Rossini, Ian Rappaport even, Mark Caboli, Aditi Kinkhabwala. But Schefter was like the one guy still pushing for Russ. And then we had some of those pro-Russ reports last week with like Filipponi and Jersey Jerry. So that going back to the whole like pendulum swinging one way or another, like Schefter was keeping Russ afloat there for a little bit because every other report from the big names were kind of pointing towards Fields being the guy. And then you had Schefter saying his money was on Russ. I mean, Dulac was going back and forth, but really, Schefter was the one name, and obviously it's an important name when it comes to these quarterback reports because he's the biggest reporter in the NFL, and his name carries the most weight. His reports carry the most weight, I'd say, out of all of them. Ian Rappaport probably next, but now you have Adam Schefter on the Fields as the priority side. So, like, what else are we supposed to believe at this point? It's like the pro Fields reports, it's an infinity gauntlet at this point. Rappaport, Schefter, Diana Rossini, Aditi Kinkhabwala, Mark Caboli, they're all saying Fields is the priority. What else are we supposed to believe? And the decision is supposed to be made some point this week, and rightfully so, because you'd kind of like to know who your quarterback is going into free agency, because that's going to dictate what receivers you sign, the style of receiver that you try to sign, and all that. So, who knows? Could happen any day now, literally, because free agency technically starts next Wednesday. It's going to be a full week, technically, but the tampering period starts on Monday, the 10th, and you know, they have those agreed upon deals literally whenever I think it's like noon or something on the 10th typically. Once that hits, we see deals happening left and right, even though it's not signed and penned just yet. So free agency is really starting in like 5 days. It's next Monday. So Justin Fields deal, maybe it's only a matter of time. So now we just see if it actually happens. What the deal is going to be. I'm seeing, people talk about Fields getting a Sam Darnold type of deal, and we've been talking about that being his market ever since the Steelers season ended of, 1 year, like $10 million per year, even if it's like 2-year deal. But as time's gone on, we're like, oh man, not as many quarterbacks out there that are that exciting. Maybe his market's really like 15. Could it go up to 20 even? Could the Jets or the Giants or Raiders, a more desperate franchise, try to sign Fields for 20? So who knows? It's going to be somewhere in between there. That's where my money is, between 10 and 20 million. I guess that's not that bold of a take, but that's probably what Fields' deal is going to be. And hopefully it gets done, man. Hopefully it gets done. But switching gears here, wanted to talk Combine. And I was supposed to talk about this on Monday. I said at the end of Monday's show, because I did it, I had a more early show on Monday, and I said I'm going to do another vid later in the day, talk some Combine. But I didn't get around to it. I'm sorry. Life happened. I ended up getting my hair cut. I ended up... I had to take care of some shit with my car too. So yeah, it kind of was put on the back burner, and then yesterday's video was more about Devontae Adams and Darius Slay now that they're available. So now we're talking Combine, but I'm not going to talk about the whole Combine or get into that much detail or do winners and losers or anything. It's going to be more about the quarterbacks, and specifically one quarterback, Jaxson Dart, because he's been getting linked to the Steelers. But with like the Combine, really, when it comes down to winners and losers, just look up who ran good and who did all the drills good, and they're the winners. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I know you could get into more details with it and put further context, but that's who won. The guys that ran fast, the guys that did the drills good, they won the Combine. The guys that didn't do as good, yeah, maybe their stock took a little bit of a hit. But, yeah, in terms of the quarterbacks, though, yeah, because I'll talk Jaxson Dart, but also some of the other quarterbacks and what I noticed from some of their throwing sessions too, some of the bigger name guys. But with Dart, there is a report that's out there, and of all places, it's from a Cleveland radio host, Tony Rizzo. He thinks that the Steelers are hiding their interest in Jaxson Dart, and the Steelers are going to be looking to potentially draft him in the first round, maybe even the second if he's available. But he says on his show, I'm hearing the fastest rising player, not only quarterback in this whole process of the Underwear Olympics, is Jaxson Dart. Guess who likes Jaxson Dart? He asks his producer, and his producer says the Steelers. And Rizzo says that's exactly right. They're doing everything they can to not let that out of the bag. Don't be surprised if the Steelers keep Justin Fields and also draft Jaxson Dart. Okay. So a lot to unpack here, because part of what I'm going to talk about too is Jaxson Dart and what he looked like at the Combine. But then we're also going to talk about the Steelers potentially drafting him in the first or second round, or even just a quarterback in general in the first or second round. So let's start with Jaxson Dart at the Combine. How about that? I think of all the quarterbacks that threw all the quarterbacks that participated, I did think he looked the best. I think he impressed the most. The arm strength was there. The arm talent was on display. I think his arm popped more than any other quarterback. Like the way he threw was a tier above everyone else. But then he also had the accuracy to go with it. Whereas with like Jalen Milroe, I think the arm talent was there. You saw the arm strength, but then the inaccuracy showed up. Same thing with Will Howard. I thought he looked good. I think the arm strength was there with him too, but he was missing throws. Quinn Ewers, the accuracy was there for the most part. He missed some throws late in his throwing session, but for the deep ball, he was underthrowing it. And you saw a little bit of that at Texas, even with Quinn Ewers. Like, he's not going to completely wow you with the attributes, but he can get the job done. Like, he was still a quality college football quarterback. He was still a legit dude at Texas. But I think Jaxson Dart was the one out of all those guys that was able to put it all together. Now, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders didn't throw, but Dart probably after that Combine did himself some favors. Now, going back to Dart at Ole Miss and what I was thinking about the Steelers potentially drafting him after this, Ole Miss season ended and whenever the Steelers season ended, whenever we were talking about Dart at the Senior Bowl and just the prospects of the Steelers drafting a quarterback early in the first or second round, and Jaxson Dart being, the third or fourth quarterback, his name was being floated out there. And I was like, nah, I'm good. I think Jaxson Dart's overrated. I don't even know if he's necessarily a better prospect than a Jalen Milroe or a Will Howard. But I thought about things a little bit more. After seeing Dart at the Combine, I think he impressed the most, again, out of all the quarterbacks that were actually throwing. And then looking back on some of his Ole Miss tape, looking at some of his stats, it's like, man, why am I so out on Jaxson Dart? Because 4,200 yards in his senior season at Ole Miss, his year last year, 4,200 yards, 29 passing touchdowns, single-digit interceptions, and a QBR of 83. Don't forget, I think he had like 300 or 400 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Like, his legs are a factor in his play, for sure. They've been a factor in his play for his 3 seasons at Ole Miss. I think his junior year, he had 8 rushing touchdowns. Sophomore year, he had like 500 or 600 rushing yards. So, like, the production's there. It's definitely there. And then you see what he did at the combine, how he was able to throw, how he had the pop in his arm and all that. You could see the talent on display. I'm like, man, why am I so out on us potentially drafting Jaxson Dart? Now, I thought about it more, and I'm like, it's probably because whenever I got to see him play on TV, he looked bad. It was like 2 or 3 games, and I know for sure 2 of them, it was the loss against Florida and it was the loss against Kentucky. 2 really poor showings, I thought, from Jaxson Dart. I'm like, bro, this guy's supposed to be a Heisman finalist. He's supposed to be a top prospect in the upcoming draft. Ole Miss is a talented team. They're supposed to be a lock to make the college football playoff this year, given that the team's expanded out to 12 that make it. And it seems like he and Ole Miss are underperforming. Losing to Florida, losing to Kentucky like that, what? He should be able to take it up another notch. Like, if you got it like that, I should see clutch play in the fourth quarter, not bad picks against Florida. I should see you closing out these games. I should see you elevating your team to make the playoffs. And I didn't feel like he did that. Now, he's got, again, the talent. He's definitely got the talent, but I was like, when push came to shove, like, where is the winning? Where is you getting Ole Miss to the playoffs like that? Then I started to question, like, because he had 2 so-so games, and those are just so happened to be the 2 games I really saw from Dart. I didn't get to see his Georgia game, which he played good. And if you look at, again, the stats for his whole season, you look at his whole career at Ole Miss, he must have been doing something right. He must have been. He couldn't have been a complete failure. Again, 4,200 yards. I think that was the 3rd most in college football. Over 30 total touchdowns. His 83-something QBR was 3rd or 4th in college football as well. So maybe just because he didn't win necessarily at the highest level at Ole Miss, he didn't dominate every game that he played in the past year, or just even dominate every game that he played at Ole Miss. You know, does that mean he can't be a solid pro? Like, how does that necessarily affect his pro prospects? Because almost every pro quarterback that has worked out, I mean, there are some outliers. I mean, Cam Newton at Auburn, Joe Burrow at LSU. There's definitely some outliers. But, like, almost every quarterback in the NFL that has started, that has worked out, they've had some tough moments at college at times. So just because Jaxson Dart at Ole Miss didn't make it to the college football playoff, didn't win an SEC championship game, does that mean he can't be a good pro? That's what I'm trying. I'm opening my mind up a little bit here, because I'm thinking of quarterbacks that may have underperformed a little bit in college, or maybe didn't win to the highest level that you would have expected. Caleb Williams at USC won a Heisman. That year they only went 10-2. And then his last year, with all the hype surrounding Caleb Williams, after he won a Heisman, could he win back-to-back Heismans? Could he lead USC to a national championship? They go 7-5. Still taking number 1 overall, because you see the talent. And the production was still there in college at USC. Jaden Daniels didn't win at the highest level at LSU. Didn't do anything crazy at Arizona State. Drake May at UNC didn't win an ACC championship. And I'm talking about some guys that have been drafted recently. But then if you look at guys that are in the pros and we consider pretty elite, they have a really good track record, they have that Hall of Fame type of resume. I'm thinking of Matt Stafford. I remember him at Georgia. I think he underperformed big time, particularly in his junior year. That Georgia team, number 1 ranked going into his junior season, talented as heck, supposed to win it all. Ended up with like 3 losses and going to like the Citrus Bowl or Capital One Bowl, something like that. Pat Mahomes, was he known as this? But Stafford ends up going number 1 overall, and we see how his career played out. One of the clutchest guys in the league. Talking about fourth quarter and comebacks and gritting out victories. Super Bowl champion. Like, come on. Pat Mahomes, was he known as this cold-blooded killer at Texas Tech? He had a couple losing seasons. Again, the stats are there, but part of that was Texas Tech, air raid system and all that. But I guess that's what I'm trying to get at with Jaxson Dart. The stats are there with Jaxson Dart. Stats are definitely there. The production's there. The eye test is there with his arm talent and his abilities. So I'm just wondering, like, yeah, maybe Dart does have a chance. Yeah, maybe I've overhated. Maybe I literally just saw him at his worst moments the last year. Maybe he actually elevated the Ole Miss program to a higher level than what they should be in a tough SEC conference. Because Ole Miss, I wouldn't really consider them are they one of the top half programs in the SEC? Maybe. They're probably around half. But now that Texas and Oklahoma are there, yeah, where does Ole Miss sit? And they've, with Jaxson Dart, consistently been in like that 9 or 10 win range being talked about. But that's the other thing. I felt like Ole Miss, they were considered a really talented team this year, and they were supposed to make the college football playoff. So I think they did still underperform a little bit. 4,200 yards, over 30 touchdowns, single-digit picks, 83 QBR. You see the mobility, you see the arm talent. Like, if you see some of the throws that he's able to make, it's really only him and Cam Ward that can make some of these throws. If you're talking about like on the run, tight window throws, it's really only him out of these quarterbacks in this class. The other reason, though, that I would be open to drafting a Dart or drafting a quarterback early is if you look at next year's class, are we sure next year's class is that good? Are we sure? I get they have Arch Manning, but we don't even know if Arch Manning is going to elect to go to the draft or try to go to the NFL after his next season, especially with the NIL now. You might just be like, yeah, I'll sit back and do another year at Texas, develop a little bit more, and make $7-8 million. Who knows what team's going to go number 1 or be the number 1 overall pick. If I don't like it, I'll just chill back at Texas. And then after Arch Manning, here's who like the next few prospects are. Nico from Tennessee. He definitely underperformed last year. He definitely didn't live up to the hype. He's the second best prospect. Do you mean to tell me, like, as we sit here right now, Jaxson Dart isn't better than Nico? Drew Aller is the third prospect. What? He's the third prospect out of all these quarterbacks for next year's class. If he's the third prospect, why are we hyping up next year's class like it's a lock? It's this amazing class. Lenore Sellers, I like him, but he still needs to do it for another year at least. Like, he's still scratching the surface. All right, can you do it for your junior year? You really going to break out? Garrett Nussmeier from LSU is next. Cade Klubnik, Sam Levitt from Arizona State. Carson Beck, Jackson Arnold from Auburn. How is this class like that much better than what we're looking at this year? In terms of like Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, who's even better? Who's better? As we sit here right now, I get Arch Manning with the potential and the upside and stuff, but if Arch Manning has a season like Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, even Jaxson Dart, that'd be a hell of a season for Arch Manning. That'd be an unreal season. So we don't even know what he's going to do through a whole schedule as the first year starter at Texas, his first year starting in Texas. We don't even know what he's going to do. Now, I do think he is the truth. I do think he's going to live up. I think he's going to be worthy of being a number 1 overall pick. But again, outside of him, and he's not even proven yet. He still needs to prove some stuff next year. And we don't even know if he's going to go to the draft. He might wait until 2027. But outside of him, like, who's this certified lock to go in the top 3 or top 5 in next year's draft class? Who's so much better than Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, or even a Jaxson Dart? I just don't see it. So that's why, like, if you're talking about maybe taking Jaxson Dart in the first round, maybe taking a quarterback, whether it's him in the first round or maybe another guy in the second round, all right, I could be open-minded to it, especially since quarterback is the most important position. If you want to give yourself every opportunity to hit on a guy, so be it. I'd be fine with that. Now, my hesitancy is, though, like, you could sell that. That's the case you could sell me on. You could sell me on, like, and it's the quarterback position. We think this guy's got talent. We think this guy could do something here. All right, so be it. So be it. I'm fine with that. Like, quarterback's that important position. If you want to give yourselves as many good chances as possible to find the guy, that's fine. But the flip side is, if we bring back Fields, if Schefter's report is accurate, if all these reports are accurate that it's most likely going to be Fields, I mean, he also has a ton of talent too. He has a ton of upside. He's, I think, still scratching the surface, and he could potentially be the franchise guy for you. So why not just try to surround him with the best talent possible, get another receiver, upgrade the defense, try to get that defense as good as possible, and just see what he could do. Like, why draft a quarterback if we know most likely he's not going to be playing next year? The plan is for him not to be playing. Now, I get it. If you want to have some security, you want to have a backup plan in case Fields doesn't work out. Yeah, I'm not going to rip on the pick too much. But if you still have some needs heading into the draft, I would kind of rather address them in the early rounds and try to help out Fields as much as possible and see if he can take the keys and run with it and eventually be the guy for us. Because if you're talking about talent for talent in terms of Fields versus this quarterback class, Fields versus, let's say, some of the top quarterback prospects in Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jaxson Dart, a Milroe, a Will Howard, a Quinn Ewers, are any of those guys more talented than Justin Fields? Let's not forget what Justin Fields did at Ohio State. Let's not forget that Justin Fields has run for the most rushing yards as a quarterback in a single season in NFL history. And it's not like he's 30. It's not like he's 31. It's not like his potential's tapped out. No, he's going to be 26. So, like, there's still a lot of room for improvement with Justin Fields. And we got to see some good stuff from him last year. Go 4-2, 10 touchdowns, 1 pick. I think he's only scratching the surface, though. I think another year under the Arthur Smith system, them two working, building on their chemistry and what they could do together as an offense. Like, man, I'm kind of just interested in that and want to see what that can be if we go all in with Justin Fields. But if you want to draft a Jaxson Dart early or any other of these quarterbacks early, first couple rounds, maybe it's depending on the quarterback. I think I'd be cool with Dart. I'd be cool with Milroe, maybe in the second round, Will Howard. Now they're saying Will Howard, though. Will Howard might, because of his combine, is going to drop to like the 5th round. That's an absolute steal. So if you get Will Howard in the 5th round, do that. But after Milroe in the 2nd, I don't know, man. Maybe you could sell me on Ewers in like the 4th or something. But yeah, there's not too many quarterbacks. Kyle McCord, get out of here with that. This Tyler Shaw dude from Louisville, come on. I don't want to hear it. And obviously, we're not going to get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, but I'd be cool with taking either of them as well. But that's definitely not going to be happening, especially with us bringing back Justin Fields. And I think it also depends on a little bit what we do in free agency. If we take care of every need, if we bring in a wide receiver too, we got the D-line fortified a little bit, we get another cornerback across from JPJ, and really our only glaring need could be like a running back. Yeah, maybe you could take Dart in the 1st round then, and then you could take one of the running backs in the 2nd or 3rd. But I also wouldn't mind doubling up on some of these positions, get another defensive lineman in the draft, get another receiver in the draft, because we see how important those positions are and how much they can help out a quarterback. How good defense helps out a quarterback, how good receivers help out a quarterback. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Let me know what you're thinking down in the comments on the latest Schefter report about it really looking like it's going to be Fields. And yeah, if you'd be open to drafting a Jaxson Dart, if you'd be open to drafting a quarterback early in this upcoming 2025 draft. But that's it. Stay chilling. Peace.